What's your bottom line? It's a very direct question. The bottom line in business means the total amount of profit you have after paying your expenses. Your revenue minus your expense equals income, the bottom line. So, what's your bottom line? I'm sure you've met people driving expensive cars, flashy cars, wearing expensive clothing, wearing flashy watches, with the purpose of making impression on other people of being rich and doing financially well. In reality, many of them were in deep debt, spending so much more than earning. In reality, they were broke. You know, that behavior reminds me of something, a certain country. And that country happens to be the one that I study and specialize in, Russia. What's Russia's bottom line today in the fall of 2024? Let's find out. No BS, I use only government sources. Howdy, howdy, friends. My name is Konstantin. Welcome to Inside Russia, where usual Russia is explained by the unusual Russian. As usual, I give you truth, common sense, and logic only. No BS, no propaganda, no lies here, and some emotions because I am a human being after all. Why do I find the economy so important for the Russian Ukrainian war and for Putin's regime in general? Well, because it's all about the money. It's all about the money. If there's enough money, Putin floods everyone and everything with money. And that keeps everyone quiet. If there's enough money, there's enough missiles, tanks, guns, and ammo produced. If there's enough money, there are soldiers bought. Unfortunately, it is very bitter truth. Soldiers are bought in Russia. There are many who sign up and go fight in Ukraine purely for money. I know. And if there's no money, then there's trouble. When you fail to pay your secret police, your federal police, and your army, guess whose door they knock on next? That's right, your door. For the last 2.5 years, I have been predicting the economic apocalypse in Russia. I call it the economic tsunami. And, once in a while I make analogy with the Titanic. Well, it is the fall of 2024. Let's count our chicken. They have hatched. I will talk of a few economic areas of Russia and indicators that I find crucial. Well, the economists in general find them crucial. Number one, the first one is inflation. Oh, what is inflation? Inflation measures the change in prices of goods and services in the economy. Very simple. A drop in the inflation means that the prices are rising more slowly or dropping. Combined with wage growth, that makes the cost of living more affordable because you can buy more with the money in your pocket. On the contrary, a rise in inflation means that prices are now rising faster. Therefore, this makes cost of living less affordable because you can buy less with the money in your pocket. So it's a very simple concept. Inflation has become a problem right after Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February of 2022. Russia started spending huge amounts of money on military industrial complex, something it hadn't done before. In other words, Putin started flooding war factories with money to increase output, to produce more missiles, more tanks, more ammo, and more of everything war related. The government started paying huge amounts to those who sign up to go to the war. Now the amounts in some provinces reach $22,000 as a sign-up bonus, and then soldiers, those who sign up voluntarily, they get hefty monthly. I don't even know how to say that, salary, pay, allowance. Well, anyway, the economy has had a huge influx of money, unseen before. But hey, there's a catch. At the same time, all products in the military industrial complex, tanks, missiles, bombs, ammo, things like that, they do not add any value to the economy. It's something that you just produce to blow up, trying to kill as many people in Ukraine as possible. And there's no economic effect. Okay, if you produce a product that is used, in the markets, or a service that is bought, products or services that are bought, then there's economic effect. You add value to your economy. War economy does not add value. So you simply burn this money that you spend to make war stuff. So no extra products or services created to, satisfy growing demand. Hey, Russian populace has more money on hands now. Therefore, they're spending more. They demand more. They demand more things, more services, more products. But, same amount or less is produced. The result can be only one. Prices go up, and that's it. Increasing inflation. So what's the bottom line of the inflation in 2024, in the fall? To get data, I usually go to the official website of the Central Bank of Russia. Surprisingly, they started saying a lot of truth lately. The central bank head Elvira Nabiulina started speak up boldly after Putin was announced the old new president of Russia in the spring. That time, the sugarcoating was not needed any longer. And the Russian government officials stopped sugarcoating things. And Elvira Nabiulina was the first one, and she speaks up the loudest, okay? And her employees also speak up nowadays. She's given quite a few press conferences, but the latest one, on August 29th, the deputy head of the central bank, Alexei Zabotkin, quite famous guy, he's one of the top executives, I think one of the 5 executives of Russia's central bank. He spoke up at the press conference. Please forgive me, my throat still hurts a little bit. So he spoke at the press conference. He admitted that the central bank actions in the last 12 months have not helped to corner the inflation, to slow it down. Let me remind you, in July 2023, some 14 months ago, the key interest rate was 7%. Now it's 18. 18. From 7 to 18. That doesn't happen in a normal, stable economy, friends. This is very abnormal. This is very odd, very strange, very unusual, and it is a sign of something not very good happening. That's for sure. Any economist will tell you that. So he admitted that the central bank has not been succeeding in lower interest rate, despite all these the key interest rate hike. Okay. He also concerned. He voiced a few concerns, and one of the concerns was that the economy was cooling because of the key interest rate hikes that they did. Well, imagine you own a business and you have to borrow money from your bank at 22% now. What kind of profit margin you need to have then? I mean, what do you have to do to sell drugs? To I don't know, to sell weapons illegally? I don't know. I don't know many businesses in Russia that are that profitable who can afford to borrow money at commercial banks at 22%. Okay, um, most likely, if you owned your business, you wouldn't borrow money at 22%. Okay, and he admits that there is a big concern that the inflation is not slowing down, but the economy is slowing down. Okay, um, that's double fail. Another fail, another problem for inflation was August's inflation. You see, Russia is a well, as a matter of fact, in the last week of August, for the first time in many, many weeks, the economists saw deflation, negative inflation, minus 0.002%, two hundredths of 1%, okay? Tiny, minuscule amount. But it was negative, meaning the inflation in 1 week, inflation went down a little bit. Basically, it slowed down to standstill situation. And that is still a fail because in Russia, August is the month when food gets cheaper due to increased seasonal supply. Hey, Russian climate implies that Russian farmers harvest in July and August, last week of July and August. Fruits, vegetables, you name it, it's August, okay? Usually, most prices for food drop significantly, and I mean significantly by 100, even 200%. Well, not this year. The Russians I spoke to in Moscow, in Russia, in St. Petersburg, and in Yekaterinburg, four cities. I think it's pretty. It's a it's a good number of places that they show the situation in Russia in general. So all Russians, they're basically shocked that the prices for seasonal cucumbers, tomatoes, corn, potatoes, apples, plums, and other fruits and vegetables have not gone down. They usually go down. Like in Rostov, for example, when it's a season for apricots, we used to buy apricots by buckets. They were so cheap and can them. Same goes for plums. Same goes for cherries, tomatoes, cucumbers, to pickle everything. This is the season, late July and August. Not this year. And that is a huge fail. And it shows that food prices it did not drop. And that's inflation is high, high, high. And the third indicator is the central bank is, well, again, Zabotkin hinted that to try to slow inflation more, the central bank is to make another hike of the key interest rate in 3 days on September 13th. Some experts say by 2%. My estimation, they will hike the rate somewhere between 1 and 1.5%, because they have a goal to slow down the inflation. They don't care about the economy. You see, Russian agencies, economic agencies, they don't work together. Each one has own goal, and that goal is to, central bank has a goal to keep the inflation low, and it's doing everything to keep the inflation low, even though it's slowing down Russian economy greatly, okay, and destroying Russian businesses. Doesn't care. So my estimation, they will hike the interest rate again And it could be not the last time in 2024. We'll see. I'll come back on that in 3 days. Again, that's going to be another huge blow to the private sector, because borrowing money from commercial banks will get even more expensive, and fewer and fewer companies will be doing that. Now, enough with inflation. Let's talk about Russian GDP. Oh, that's what Russian officials absolutely love, that indicator. GDP is the size of the economy, combined products and services produced by the economy. Russian President Putin is usually the newsmaker. He loves talking about GDP, and somehow his numbers are always, well, at least I don't remember once that he said something negative about Russia's GDP. On the 26th of August, Putin announced that the Russian GDP grew by 4.6% in the first half of 2024. 4.6%. Woohoo! We're saved. Do you know what 4.6% and 9.2% in a year? 4.6% in the first half? That's China growing at its best years. The China, the powerhouse, the factory of the world, growing, and you hear about China in the news and how China is creating more demand for oil, driving oil up, demanding more manufacturing materials, increasing demand for materials, because it's manufactured so much, its output is so much, it's growing by 9% that you can't even follow it fast enough, okay? That's what 4.6% in the first half of 2024. Russia? Holy moly, what is he smoking? Who gives him the numbers? Does he even understand himself what he's talking about? Anyway, the deputy head of central bank, Alexei Zabotkin, I like that guy. This is my kind of guy. He gives us a different outlook for the GDP growth, but not about 2024, because I think he's just too afraid to contradict his boss, okay? I don't think that Putin's gonna like that, but instead, Zabotkin just forecasted GDP growth for 2025. It's a little bit different from what Putin said. So, Zabotkin's forecast is Russian economy at the base scenario, that scenario that they expect that the central bank will grow from 0.5 to 1.5% in the range. 0.5 to 1.5. Now, this year, 4.6 just in 6 months, 9.2 in, 12 months. Next year, 0.5 in 12 months. That's almost like 18 times difference. But nothing is radical happening in the Russian economy. There's no crash. Everything is going according to the plan. So why there's such a huge drop? But I find Zabotkin's scenario, Zabotkin's forecast, much more closer to real life. But then don't forget, that's the base scenario. And the funny thing is, no one is talking about that somehow, but everybody's, heard the base scenario. But usually the central bank has a few scenarios. Good scenario, base scenario, neutral, and negative scenario. So if it's base scenario 0.5, then the negative scenario is going to be the decline of GDP. And that I have not heard from anyone from the Russian propaganda, because you know why? Russia has withstood all the sanctions. Russia has stood up from its knees. All the international sanctions have failed. The evil West, look, we are the greatest. Russia is great. We're making Russia great again, okay? We have made it great again. Now it's magnificent. It's the best in the world. And GDP negative all of a sudden? Huh? Where does this fit into this scenario of greatness? Love this guy. Zabotkin, you're my hero of the week. Anyway, let's move on. Before I move on, I trust 0.5% much more. And I want to tell you one more thing. 0.5 growth with the war economy, and the war economy is being pumped with money. The war economy has grown by 40, 50%. I don't even know the real numbers, but it's out there. People work in 3 shifts. Imagine the number of weapons, of ammo, of tanks they're developing. That's the spending money. That's the war economy, GDP, is huge. And then imagine the decline of the civic economy. Okay, if you balance out at 0.5. Wow. And you know what? It doesn't surprise me because that's what I'm seeing in Russia. I still have lots of friends and relatives and colleagues left in Russia. And then that's pretty much the idea I'm getting. Things are not well. And to finish this GDP growth, I would like to tell you that Zabotkin gives 2 major reasons for such minuscule growth forecast in 2025. The first is, and here I absolutely agree with the guy, here is extreme lack of resources, and including people, resources, labor force. Unemployment is lower than 2.2%, and that is a catastrophe. There's simply not enough people to work. I know some factories, 2 factories already closed because they simply don't have people, okay? And the second reason is no more additional manufacturing output, physical output possible. There simply aren't enough factories. And you can't build a factory just like that overnight. It takes a few years, perhaps up to a decade, to build a large factory. So that's the 2 reasons for such a catastrophe with GDP that Zabotkin is giving. And I will add to that lack of technologies. Russia simply doesn't have any technologies to build upon, okay? The weapons they're building, they're low-tech, except for the missiles, they mostly were designed in the USSR a long time ago, 40, 50 years ago, and that's what they're producing now. Cutting edge, not much. At least I don't know of anything. Anyway, lack of technologies, that's the topic is no one is talking about in Russia. Well, I do. That's what you get for attacking your neighbor and becoming the most sanctioned country in the human history. I actually have confidence to claim that the official number of 4.6% for this first half of the year of 2024 is bogus. It's fake. It's not real. And the reality is much smaller growth, if any. And I'm talking about the real growth of the entire economy, not just the war economy. So another thing that is that very few people in Russia are talking about is the budget expenses. Budget expenses, and that's just official data, came from Russian government. I read it at TASS, that's Russian Information Official Government Agency. They compared 8 months of 2023 and 8 months of 2024. And in 2024, federal budget expenses have grown by 23%. 23.63% to be exact, compared to the first 8 months of 2023. That's official information. But then, they don't talk about it. They certainly print it They it's available, but it's overlooked by everyone as if it was not important. That is hugely important. In a household, you balance out your earnings and your spendings. And if you spend more than you earn, that's a big trouble. That's gonna lead you to bankruptcy. And this is what is going on in Russia. It's spending more, more, and more. And where all the spendings go to? Research and development, development of new industries, government support of small business. No, it all goes to the war economy. This is that the expenses have grown up by 23.36% to the military industrial complex. Well, to build stuff, to pay sign up bonuses, to attract more soldiers, and to pay off coffin money. Those who were killed in Ukraine, government pays compensations for that. And that is the biggest problem, in my opinion. The thing is, you've got to balance. You've got to, in order to have healthy economy, you got to earn more than you spend, or at least, equal amount, but more. Earn more and invest. In Russia, you spend more, you have budget deficit, and basically you produce death. You try to kill as many neighbors as possible with that extra expenses. Where are you going to get the money to cover your deficit? Well, I'll talk about it a little later. So everyone is quiet in Russia about this biggest problem, the ever-increasing expenses. Number 4. Why Russia has lasted for so long? 2.5 years. Blow after blow after blow. Sanctions, exodus of people, so many Russian men killed, no one to work, technologies, all this foreign stuff is not maintained, failing. Why is Russia hasn't disintegrated yet? Well, because of Russia's savings account. That's called the Federal Wellness Fund. You see, in fat years, in the rich years, Russian government was smart enough not to spend everything, but to take apart and to save, to stash into the savings account. Well, the fancy name, again, is the Foundation of National Wealth. I simply call it country's savings account. And then savings account was covering all those extra expenses. And now it's official. Again, Alexei Zabotkin came out and he said that if the expenses remain at the level of 2023 and 2024, in 2025, the central bank forecasts that Russian savings account, that foundation, will be dry. Its liquid part will be dry. Gone. Money is gone. There's nothing to cover the excess expenses anymore. Again, it's not me. I've been saying that for 2.5 years because it's obvious, but this time it's official. For the first time, the government has acknowledged that there's trouble with Russia's savings account, the wellness fund. The defense rests its case. Number 5. Oil exports are falling. Oh boy, that is a huge problem. That is Russia's bread maker, oil exports. They're falling for 2 reasons. Secondary sanctions and world market price is going down. Now I want to take a few minutes and talk about the secondary sanctions. I salute to the Americans. Okay, the West was criticized in the past for not striking down hard enough on Russia with sanctions. And we can divide sanctions into 2 big parts, primary sanctions and secondary sanctions. In primary sanctions, Russia was hit with primary sanctions back in 2022, right after the start of the war. But they didn't kill the Russian economy. Russia has circumvented a lot of them, and it did it easily. And I was wondering, like, why? Now I understand that if Russian um, Russian economy fell apart, it in 2022 due to the very strict sanctions, it would bring all global markets down. That would be a huge recession all over the world because the world would be stripped of supplies of Russian oil and gas overnight. So instead, what Americans have done, they have been applying secondary sanctions over the past year and a half, and they're working. They're working. They are increasingly tightening the, I don't know how you think, around your neck, and you pull. So basically, that's what they are doing to Russian economy, and they have been striking Russian shadow fleet. They have been looking for companies who assist exports of Russian oil. And they have done, well, quite a few things. I think that deserves a separate stream of what the secondary sanctions in the fall of 2024 mean and how they're applied. Okay, because they are growing, they're becoming more stricter, they're becoming more precise. And but the bottom line is they're working. Okay, so that's secondary sanctions reason number one. And the reason number two, world prices for oil are falling. And they will fall even more because OPEC is at the brink of increasing the production. That will, drive the prices lower. And that is a killer for Russia. Because at this point, Russian oil is trading around $60 per barrel. And that is the cap, the sanctions cap. Okay. How much of a decline in exports? Data is coming from different sources, and I am not sure which source is correct. I am monitoring the situation. I will get down to it sooner or later. But at this point, I've been hearing the number of 21% decrease of oil revenue in the last 2 months. Okay, it's huge. Again, don't quote me on that. I am not sure that the number is correct, but what is correct is the decrease is there and it's growing. Okay, the forecast is further decline in Russia's oil revenues, and that's going to shake Russian economy real bad. Now, before I get to the stock market, wait until you hear about the stock market, okay? I would like to ask you one thing. I would like to ask you to hit the like button if you are liking what you're hearing. And I also would like to once again thank you, all of you who have supported me in this very difficult time. I've been demonetized. I have no progress with remonetization so far. I'm trying, but at this point, things are uncertain. But as promised, I will go on making live streams and videos, monetized or not. I will not change anything. And thank you so much, those who bought me coffees, who became patrons, former sponsors of Inside Russia on YouTube, who switched to Patreon, those who send me funds directly via PayPal. I really appreciate your support. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Again, I will continue no matter what. Folks, wait until I tell you about the stock market. I haven't talked much about it. I'm not a big expert on stock market. I know how it works. I've never traded stock myself. One of my business partners in the past was a day trader in the USA. He had a company in New York on the big stock exchange, NYSE. So I know how the system works. Okay, but I was never interested in Russian stock market. Okay, too unpredictable, too crooked for me, and there's so much corruption, and it drives. It's just I've always stayed away. Okay, but I tell you what, things are not well. First of all, a Russian stock market does exist. Okay, it is the stocks are traded of Russian companies are traded on Moscow Stock Exchange, and that's equivalent of New York Stock Exchange, I guess. And Moscow Stock Exchange has its own index. Well, I think it's very similar to Dow Jones in Russia. So Russian stock market has been fallen. Mosbirja stock index, equivalent of Dow Jones again. Now, listen to these numbers. In May, it was 3,500. In September, it is right now, it is around 2,600, minus 25%. There was a surge of Russian stock. Different companies, their stock was increasing about a year ago. And a lot of Russian private investors, regular people, they wanted to capitalize. They started buying stocks, and the more they bought, obviously, it was bullish market, the more stock went up. In 3 months, minus 25%. All companies are down. Everything is in red. The reason, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand the reason why Russian companies' stock is falling. Because overall, negative outlook of Russian economy and the bad numbers, the red that Russian companies produce. Plain and simple. People, private investors, in the second quarter of 2024 alone, and add month of August to that, have lost over 2 trillion rubles. That's how the stock market is what it's showing us. Number 7. Well, gasoline. I'd like to talk about gasoline. Gasoline is very important because, Russia has 2 types of oil products. Well, first of all, it exports crude oil. And then second, it has quite a few, not enough, but quite a few of oil refineries inside Russia. And it refines oil into gasoline of different types and diesel fuel. And that's obviously needed in Russia, and Russian producers, refineries also sell it, export it abroad. Well, that's not news that Russian refineries have been targets of attacks of drones, Ukrainian drones. And the Ukrainians have been very effective in hitting various refineries. I made live streams in the past about that. The latest ones are Omsk oil refinery. That is Russia's largest oil refinery. It produces 10% of gasoline and diesel fuel of the entire Russia out of commission. And in Moscow, there was a recent attack on Moscow oil refinery in Kapotnya out of service. It's actually direct hit to the rectifying column, and it's not going to get fixed very soon. Moscow's refinery was responsible for supplying gas and diesel to Moscow and Moscow region. Okay, that's huge, and that's a blow to Russian economy because that is another one of those things that add up. And what we're seeing right now is gasoline is raising, prices for gas are raising at pumps, And my bet, we will see some kind of rationing further into this year, perhaps next year. Number 8, that is also huge. I mean, this thing's all huge. China has stopped trading with Russia. First, the Chinese banks did not take payments, and that's one part of the problem. They stopped taking payments, and they do not take payments now because they're simply afraid. They're afraid of if they take payment and ship something. Well, they take payment from Russian bank, from a Russian company, and the company is sanctioned, and it's connected to the military-industrial complex, which Chinese have really no way of finding out. Then they're gonna fall under American sanctions, and Russia is just a small part of their business. They don't want to risk everything for the small, small, small percentage of their revenues. Okay. A second problem: there's a huge deficit of yuans in Russia, and that's a full-blown crisis. Elvira Nabiulina herself, the head of the central bank, admitted recently that at one of the press conferences, there is a huge crisis. Official information: the government noted the loss of $30 billion worth of imports due to payment problems. Again, now this is not just me saying. Now you're not listening, you hearing from anybody else. This is the official information. For the first time, they just came out with $30 billion worth of import loss due to payment problems. They had a certain plan for this year, and the massive refusals of banks to make payments, which Russian companies faced, in China mostly, but also in Turkey, also in the Middle East, and now Dubai is becoming a hotspot. And in former Soviet Union, in countries such as Uzbekistan and Kyrgyzstan, these troubles are hitting supply of imported goods to Russia. Not just they lost imports, that means they lost goods coming into Russia. And you know what it means? Back into the USSR, whenever you are, whatever. That means deficit. That means empty shelves. Or they probably won't be empty, but they're going to be like half empty, And by the end of 2024, the volume of imports to Russian Federation will be $29.2 billion lower than the initially planned. That's the macroeconomic forecast of the Ministry of Economic Development. I read it on one of Russia's news agencies, Interfax. Bingo, that's official. Number 9. Oh, this is also a good one. You see, how can Russia finance the budget deficit? It spends more than it receives. It earns. Okay, yeah, that happens. But if the economy is stable, if the economy is good, if the economy is trustworthy, people who run the country trustworthy, the principles that the country and the economy is built and run upon, trustworthy, then people believe into the economy. They believe to the government, and the government can finance the deficit with treasury bills or treasury bonds. The USA does it all the time, okay? Government debt, Russian treasury bonds, Russian government debt obligations issued by the Ministry of Finance for the first time in 20 years. Now, in 20 years, profitability of the, this papers of treasury bonds has reached 16%. And guess what? No one wants to buy them at 16%. Can you imagine buying US treasury bonds at 16%? Give me some. I'll buy right now. I'll buy a lot. I'll go to a bank, I take out a loan and I'll buy those papers at 16%. But that's not Russia. No one wants to buy the bonds. Not investors, but not too many left in Russia. Okay, the foreign ones are forbidden, and by the governments, and the Russian investors there are none, and the people don't want to buy them. This is September, and the annual plan of selling treasury bonds has been fulfilled only by 45%. This source of financing budget deficit is kaput. No more. It's gone. Okay? It's not going to happen. Another information just came out from, well, I kind of talked about it about a year ago. And in my news reports, I updated quite a few times. But again, this is something that's not talked about in the Russian news much. Russian metallurgical companies just announced the Chinese threat to the Russian metals market. No kidding. The growing supply of rolled steel from China to the countries of the Eurasian Economic Union threatens Russia's largest metallurgical companies, plants, such as Severstal and LMK, MMK. So these three huge giants have appealed to the Eurasian Economic Commission and demanded an anti-dumping investigation into galvanized rolled products from China. This follows from the free, from the data released by this commission, and I picked it up in a Russian newspaper called the Kommersant. That information there I trust. From January 2020 to January 2025, an anti-dumping duty of 12.69%, in the range of 12.69 to 17%, applies to Chinese rolled steel in the Eurasian Economic Union. However, according to the Russian experts in the industry, China continued dumping imports during the period of this lower duty, and still retains great potential to increase supplies, especially after the termination of restrictions. Russian companies recalled that they account for up to 70% of production and exports of galvanized rolled products into the Eastern Economic Union market. In simple words, basically, China is cheating. Okay? China, there are special duties that make it easier for Russian companies to sell metals, galvanized metals, rolled steel, and so forth, into their markets, okay? And the Chinese have been coming in and stealing their markets, okay? In, I can't say it illegal way, but in a shady way. Russian metallurgical industry is in a big trouble. And metals are Russia's number 3 export after oil and natural gas. It means one thing: a huge drop in tax revenues for the federal budget next year in 2025. And that's another blow to overall to Russian economy. I cover such news daily, make them available to patrons of Inside Russia. Every single day, I carefully select 9 news that I find important. With my analysis and commentaries, I post them on Patreon. This is my way of thanking those who support me there. And these news will keep you informed on everything you wanted to know about Russia, but we're always afraid to ask. So sign up to become patron, get access to the 9 daily news. I'm going to put the link down below in the pinned comment. right after the stream ends. Number 11, the last but not least. This is also a type of economic news, okay? And that's probably the saddest news. Listen very carefully to what I'm about to say right now. Almost a third of Russians refused to have children because of the war, poverty, and the unstable political situation in the country. About a third of Russians, to be exact, 30.6% of all people, have decided to postpone the planned birth of a child or abandon it altogether due to the war in Ukraine, dissatisfaction with the political course of Russian leadership, financial problems, and emotional stress. This is official. Okay, it is the results of a study done by the Higher School of Economics, Russia's Harvard for equivalent for economists, and it's published in the economic science journal called The Issues of Economics. This information is I trusted. I trust this magazine. It's fairly independent, well, in some things, and I think they're spot on about this, right on about this issue. Now, think about it. It's Russian government has been, going left and right, paying attention of Russian people to the problem of demography, saying you should have more children. You must help your motherland. You must have like multiple children. And Putin's been talking about it. All high officials been talking about it. But you know what? You can talk all you want. Real people, they make decisions for themselves. They're still allowed. In the future, if things go like they have been going, there's a possibility that the government will oblige Russian citizens to have children. Well, we're not there yet, but I clearly see the path to that situation. For now, it is very sad. Russians are become child-free for objective reasons, Here goes the family values that are announced by Russian government. Here goes the pillar of rightness. Here goes the church. Here goes all these things they claim Russia is the Russian world. In the Russian world, 1/3 of Russian worlders decide not to have children because they're afraid of what's going on in the Russian world. That's very sad. And the last thing I'd like to tell you today is actually it's a good news for the Russian economy. Believe it or not, but Gazprom, the natural gas exporting company, the monopolist, has shown some profits in the last couple of months. For one of the reasons, for some objective and subjective reasons. Subjective, I'm not going to be talking about that, but there are objective reasons. And there's actually one objective reason. Gazprom increased sales of natural gas to Europe through the pipeline called the Southern Stream or the Turkish Stream. The Russia built a pipeline on the bottom of Black Sea, and it's on Turkish territory going into, I believe, Bulgaria, Austria. Well, anyway, the recipients, the buyers of Russian natural gas are Austria and Hungary. 25%, they increase the sales. If they keep increasing the sales, they keep increasing buying if they keep increasing buying Russian natural gas and perhaps oil, well, then hey, Russian economy is gonna go for strong for a very long time. So that's the good news for them. To me, it's not such good news, to be honest with you. So this is the fall of 2024. And Vladimir Putin says things are great. Economy is growing at record numbers. Fantastic. Everything is great. Russian world, and the pillar of values. And a lot of Russian officials say the same thing. They repeat after Vladimir Putin. That's the agenda. But some Russian officials, such as the employees of the central bank, they start giving us warnings. And if we read between the lines, and if we analyze their speeches, then if we look deeper into what they say, we, understand that the situation is not that great. And the forecast is actually very dark. And then there's Western media, such as The Economist and the Wall Street Journal, and they report that Russian economy is on the rise, and it's doing fantastic, and it's withstood all the sanctions, and it's strong. And I tell you that things are not strong with the Russian economy. Things are not well. All you have to do is to keep your eyes open. Read between the lines, notice small signs, fuse them into one, and that gives you it'll paint you a big picture. And for goodness sake, listen to Russia's central bank, to what they say at their regular press conferences. Friends, Russian economy is falling apart, and this is fall of 2024. Thank you so very much. I invite everyone to join the live stream chat. It's been a very long message. I will try to keep the chat to the minimum because we usually are limited to 1 hour, 15 minutes or so. So please let me know what you think. It's fantastic to see everyone. I am turning the live stream chat on. This is my most favorite part of any live stream, when I see that explodes with people, good people. If you're here for the first time, and I see quite a few people, 1,700, that's great. Thank you for joining, giving me a chance. If you're here for the first time, and if you're not, it doesn't matter. So know that this community inside Russia has the best moderation team in the world. Lorna, Mami K, Harry Potnan, Dirk, Bob S, Amir Fazad. It's fantastic people and just amazing mods, the best. Folks, I apologize. Still, my throat is not 100%, so not in my best shape. As usual, if you want me to notice your message easier, please put it in all caps and put inside Russia after that sign. So I see it highlighted in orange. Thank you so much. Just like Leitmotiv for me did. Greetings, Bob S. Greetings, Pinda, Jesteri, the mods, Koshkindom, Reinhard, Stefan, Pamela, Ho-Ho, I Move It, howdy, the Highwayman, long time no see, hope all is well, thank you friend for coming, Tom W, howdy, Sam the Legend K, Werner, Angela McNaw, Sandra, Just Jimmy, Scott, Thomas, Sheerleaf, Great Southern Land, Evans Blade, Veronica, Marilyn, Bobby, B2K Kid. So the first question is from Werner. What about foreign labor? North Korea coming to Russia cheap and no retirement payments. How many North Koreans are there? How many can come and work in Russia? I have not heard of any at this point. Perhaps there are, thousands, but there are 4.8 million workers missing in Russia right now. 4.8. Actually, probably more because that's what the I think Ministry, the Academy of Science released that data last December, almost a year ago. Okay, back then it was 4.8. Now it's more. Do you think that North Koreans will fill all the positions? I don't think so. Just little drops here and there. That's all. And I don't think that there will be many coming because hey, once you have North Koreans out of North Korea, it's really hard to control them like they're controlled in North Korea. And I think Kim understands that. He's not going to be letting out of a lot of his people out. Per from Stockholm, Sweden. Howdy, friend. Shaking your hand virtually. T. Jewel. I'm sorry if I mispronounce your name. What needs to happen so the Russian population notice that Russia is in economic trouble, and will population do that? That's not happening. I understand where your question is leading at to, but it's not happening. They're not gonna stand up and rebel. I don't. Their kids are being taken from them, and they still don't say anything. At least most of them, and that is another video I'm working on right now. I'm working on a few videos. That's a separate project. It's not live streams. And why Russian population is so inactive, so and what's this right word? Inept. So apathic. Okay, so keep on tuning in. I will answer that in a video. Heracles, not Hercules. Thank you. News. Okay. Keith from Hawaii. Howdy, friend. Star. Your names are hard. Starsfire. Starfire. Oh, thank you. I'm doing better, but not 100% yet. I still feel my throat. And yesterday, it's out of the blue, I had an incredible headache. I don't usually get headaches and kept me in bed all day. So I apologize. I missed the stream, but I physically couldn't stream yesterday. Headache is gone. Like I said, I usually don't get them. Magnus Carlson from Sweden. M. Antonin, thank you so much. BK Baked. Missed the show, but going back now. All the best. Well, thank you so much. Check it out. I hope you like it. If you like, hit the like button. Komisante, good to see you. Howdy. Mag from the UK. Howdy. Jeffrey, Vikings won. Well, I'm glad. The Mangler, Polish death metal. Look, every time I have a poll come into this live stream, my heart warms up. Thank you so much. Such a hard history between our countries, and the Russian propaganda is selling all the Russians that the Polish hate Russians and they're like evil, pure evil, and all of that. And I see wonderful Polish people come in and being part of the communities. So thank you so much. I'm sending love to Poland from Uzbekistan. Lucas, thank you so much. Terry, how long can they continue before it falls completely? I think it's in the later stages. Russia is shaking. Imagine a boat, and then you get hit by a log in this a hole, a large hole, and the water starts gushing in. Well, Russia is a boat with like seven large holes, and the water is gushing in. Okay, it cannot go for long. And Larson, thank you so much. Elsha, don't overdo. Thank you. You know I try to overdo it all the time. You have to pay price for it. I know. I know. I know. Thank you so much. Sabine from Oklahoma, originally from Germany. Guten Abend or Guten Tag if you're in Oklahoma. Is the army going to stand by and let the KGB keep control? Big mess, RK-108. I don't know what's going on with the army at this point. I know that generals, they getting arrested. The arrests keep on happening. And Sergei Shoigu came out with a very interesting interview today. He kind of came out of silence, and there's a reason behind it. And I think that the circle around Shoigu has really shrunk. So we'll see what's happening. I'm monitoring the situation. If it's anything interesting, anything that I get my hands on, I'll let you know. Dominica, in your opinion, do you think that depletion of Russian financial reserves will compel Putin to end the conflict in Ukraine? Yes. He will be looking for ways to end it or freeze it extra hard. He has been looking extra hard now. I believe that he knows what awaits Russia if Russia keeps on fighting. The he needs to find some kind of a way out because if he just pulls the troops away back into Russia, then the big question will be, what the fudge? What have you done that for? Why did you go in the first place? To denazify Ukraine? Did you militarize Ukraine with F-16s flying right now? With like American and German tanks? Like the best in the world? That's demilitarization, Putin style? So he needs some kind of solution. But it's Zugzwang. That's what he's in. But yes, he's working hard on solving that. Dark Zodiac, I was going to mention the birth rates. If you didn't, Hopeless Future traditionally brings those down. That's a disaster. I've heard one of the experts, Russia's biggest expert on demographics, giving numbers. Now it's 145 million people in Russia. In 2024, by 2099, there will be 60 million left. That's not good. Lucas made, what do you think would be the breaking point of collapse of Russia? I don't know. I had a couple of ideas, a couple thoughts. They didn't work out. Now it could be anything. It could be Kursk. It could be oligarchs, teaming up. It could be the KGB taking over. It's just things are happening. They're very dynamic, and there are many groups, many vectors. The Highwayman, do you think you're affected by wishful thinking for the Russian economy falling apart, or do you think your views only objective? I mean, we all have cognitive bias. This is going to be the last question. Now, I could be a little biased. Okay, I could have a little bit of wishful thinking, but I try to base my live streams, all my points, all my observations on facts. Sometimes I do not foresee some things that happen. For example, when I was predicting Russia falling apart earlier, I didn't know that Russia would be cashing in 2022 from increased oil prices, and the West would be allowing Russia to do that. Okay. Um, it is falling apart. I see science. Okay. It's not like I make forecasts for 25, 26 any longer. I am basically telling what I am seeing or what I'm hearing from other Russians. A few people from Tashkent Breakfast Club went to Russia and came back. They're painting their own picture of dark picture of Russian stores. The prices for food, for everything, have gone up tremendously. And, I think it's safe to say that from 50 to 100% higher than they were before the war. I mean, is that wishful thinking? No, it's a true fact. Okay. Inflation, like what I've said today, is I gathered information from the official sources, not my predictions, but I quoted the official government sources. So if I have wishful thinking, not much of it. Okay, so that's my answer. Friends, I would like to thank you for giving me a chance for coming today. Thank you so much. And I would like to invite you to finish this live stream with a prayer, as usual. If you forgive me just 1 second. Oops. I need to take my prayers list. So, if you're religious, please join me. If not, still join me. You can call it not prayer, but in any way you like. Wishing good to people, sending them love, anything. So, sending them good vibes, good energy. So let's do it. Thank you so much. Dear Lord Jesus Christ, thank you so much for giving us this day. Thank you for putting food on our tables and giving roofs over our heads. Thank you for our families and loved ones. Thank you for surrounding us with people who we love and who love us. Please give us wisdom to keep the skies above our children's heads peaceful and safe. Please give us wisdom to raise our children in a way that they will not fight in any wars, just simply only love each other and be friends with each other. And will make this world a better place when they grow up. For now, please keep our children healthy and safe. Dear Lord, please help Ukraine, stop the bloodshed, reach out and touch the hearts and souls of those who are responsible for the decision. Fill them with love, remind them that they are still human beings and they still have love in their hearts. Wake them up from the lethargic sleep. Have them repent. Have them make this decision to stop the bloodshed. Please help every single Ukrainian who has been affected by this tragedy. Answer their prayers and make their wishes come true. Dear Lord, please help my country, Russia. Assemble your strongest angels with sharpest swords into your strongest army, led by Saint Michael in shining armors, and send that army to Earth to get rid of the demons who have hijacked my country, who we know by their names and by their faces. Have your angels come and help good Russians to run the country in a way that it becomes peaceful, loving, and respecting. Dear Lord, please help those who are traveling, send them safe travels. Help those who are asking for any kind of asylum, begging for help. Those who are in high waters and danger, send them safety. Help those who are helping Ukrainians, bless them. Please help those Ukrainians who are currently under the attacks of Russian missiles, bombs. Troops, please send them safety. Have your angels come and protect them. Please help all those who are sick, hungry, homeless, jobless, cold, addicted, depressed, not feeling well about themselves, about their lives, crying, feeling betrayed, feeling alone. Please help everyone in need. Fill their hearts with your love and your warmth, and show them that you're with them, you love them, you have not abandoned them, you're still with them, watching every step they take and every move they make. Please help everyone in need, dear Lord. Thank you so much for allowing us to pray in this community. Thank you for everyone who's praying along with me or simply watching us pray. Answer everyone's dream and make everyone's wish come true. Thank you. Dear Lord, I would like to ask you for a few people who need your help today. They are Millie, please send recovery. George Rames, Joseph Abide, Melissa, Sandra, Mike and Mike, Petra Olson, Ron Klotzer, Liz Dumbrell, Koshkin Dom, Svetlana, Sergey, Liz, Sky, Dasha, Oля, Jake, Michael, Natasha, Yelena, Randolph, Grace, Dean Spooner and his church, Meta Spencer, David Porter, his family, and everyone who's in Chernovtsi, Life, Darla, George Ruberty, Pamela, John, Taylor, Wayne, Dave, Don, Tim Mayers, Dory, Rhonda McGillis, Paula W., Dennis, Jason Carney, Susie Mailer, John McLean, Linda Trombley, Lisa Kumrian, Harry Potman, his family, Terry Carter, Gabing with Gary, Tom W., J.R. McKim, Frank in Texas, Mark Rutan, Alex from Albuquerque, Jeffrey S. and his family, and Larson and her daughter Hannah. And please have Sabrina and Uncle Dicky rest in peace. Thank you so much, dear Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. Thank you, friends. Thank you for coming back. I missed you. It's been just generally not great couple days. I hate being sick, and I'm okay. I'm back. I'll come back with a message tomorrow. It's going to be world news update as seen from Russia. And please keep on coming back. I would like to remind you that you're awesome and you rock. And please say out loud with me, as loud as you can. You know, the usual, as loud as you can. Carthago delenda est.